Hello everyone, this is cgspeak with Alaska and Alex Smil, and today our guest is Jakub Rebelka, who is well known in the industry, and I don't think that you need an introduction, so say hi. Hello everyone.
Hello everyone. Ja, dzień dobry, witajcie, witam wszystkich.
Yeah.
So, Jakub, I don't know if there are people who don't know about you in the industry, but if there are, just please tell a few words about yourself, how you became an artist.
All right.
How did it start for you?
So I was always a drawing kid, right? Like most of us in the field, I guess. And always was. I dreamt about drawing comics when I was a kid. That was my true obsession. And then through life, I was studying painting in the Academy of Fine Arts in Gdańsk and doing all kinds of stuff, publishing comics in Poland and drawing storyboards and stuff like this. Jobs connected to I guess jobs that where I could draw and earn money with it. So I was doing a lot of random stuff because of my location in this place, because we don't have so many comics publishers in Poland, I guess. No, not much industry. And later on with the internet and stuff, things have changed. So I began to publish my works at online, and things start to work for me. I guess that's pretty much my way so far. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, we're here.
I thought I lost you guys.
It's not a problem. We just turn off our microphones,
All right.
so it will be okay. So tell us about your very first job in the industry as an artist and an illustrator.
All right. So for me, the door to the game industry. I mean, my first job connected to games, or industry, if you want to call it, was actually because of comics. Because the CD Projekt Red was looking for a comics drawer because they wanted to do a comic about Witcher.
Mm-hmm.
And I did few pages, like sketches and pages for the comic book for them, and eventually the project failed and it wasn't picked up by it wasn't followed. I guess later on the Dark Horse published a comic book about Witcher, and they did find their own drawers. But after that job, they offered me another one, and I did illustrations for animated cutscenes in a second Witcher. So that was my first job, actually. And later on, there was Shadow Warrior. I did the same for Shadow Warrior, just illustrations, and that was actually it. And the rest of the jobs I got uh, through internet, through because of sharing my work online and just people contacting me.
Okay, our subscribers know that I am the biggest fan of The Witcher and the biggest fan of the Shadow Warrior. So you just told us this is your very first job. How would it feel like this?
Well, it feels great, but to be honest, I didn't read any of the Witcher books before I started to work for Witcher. As someone at CD Projekt gave me an audiobook, so I was listening to the books while drawing. That's actually something I do a lot because I cannot read books while I'm drawing, so I listen to the books and podcasts and music, stuff like this. And yeah, this world is really amazing, and the example of the Witcher game is also something magical. Like the books. I don't know if the books were so popular in Russia, but in Poland, the books, it was a huge success, and everyone was reading that, and all my friends did. But I came into it later on.
Mm-hmm. So
But yes, sure, I'm also a fan of the Witcher saga, and Sapkowski books are just crazy amazing, It's one of the best fantasy that exists, in my opinion.
okay, so actually, I think a lot of people who played Witcher and didn't know about the Andrzej Sapkowski, books before, they
Yeah,
went and read the books after they play the game.
yeah, sure.
So you actually were drawing the characters for this, and we don't have so much illustrators who work in the for books for comics before in our streams. So um, how would you say what's the specific what features um, employees seek when they hiring an illustrator who would be working for their comics or the book series for them? The difference between
Yeah,
just concept art and illustration for games.
I don't know if there is something like this, to be honest. I mean, if you are a passionate drawer and if you can uh, easily, change the style or just try at least to do something what people want you to do, I guess there are a lot of possibilities for you to work not only as a concept artist, illustrator, or like comics drawer, whatever, but comics industry, that's something tough, to be honest. It's like in my case, it was like I always wanted to be a comics drawer. I was going year by year to France, to Angoulême, to see the new books, and it was like a mecca for me, and I really wanted to go there, but it's really difficult to become a successful published in France comics drawer when you are born in Poland, because there are too many uh, difficulties on your way. It's not so easy to do it. In my opinion, it's easier to publish books in US. But anyway, I was just drawing and pushing it forward. I was drawing day like I do all the time, and suddenly when I thought that, oh, maybe comics is not the best way, maybe I can do something else, and then comic publishers contacted me, so it's that's how the world works, I think. If you don't try too hard, something will come to you, I guess.
And I was actually wonder if you said about the comics in France,
Yeah,
and about the US. Why not the US? Because nowadays, if you have an internet, it would be possible, to draw. And I know a lot of people would like to go
yeah,
and draw
sure. And
comics for
the
Marvel
thing,
or.
yeah, the thing with with France is that you have to speak French, and it's not something that many people do. And it's easier to, because most of us we speak English, right? So I guess there is not such a big language barrier, so it's easier to do stuff in US, I guess. But anyway, I published the book in French too, so I think it's possible. But I don't know. It seems like it's much easier to do stuff in US.
It may be a really stupid question, but why comics? We know a lot of people who say like, I would like to draw for, I don't know, for video games. I'd like to be a concept
Yeah.
artist, and you said that you would like to draw comics. Like, what was the main source of inspiration for you? What influenced you so much that you said, I would like to be a comic artist?
Yeah, it's very simple. When I was the games were not such a big thing, and it's also like there was no internet back then, so I had some comics, and I was obsessed with drawing since I was a little kid, and I just wanted to draw. And comics, you cannot find anything else that has so many drawings in it. It's just storytelling with drawings, and it really speaks to me. I was kind of obsessed with that. So that was something that I really hold on, and like, I mean, it's still very important for me, you know. It's I love to read comic books, and if they are well drawn, that's my main criteria. Comics that the drawings I don't like, you know. But it's like you can get into the story with beautiful art and just discover some interesting story and stuff like this. It's still amazing for me. But you know, the games and stuff like this, it happened later on, you know, when the world started to change. As a kid, I had only with my brother Commodore 64, you know. So we played the old games, but it's nothing like what we have nowadays. So when uh, I believe like kids that are born now, they will discover the world differently. You know, they see the games, and for them, comics it may be something archaic. You know,
No.
Okay,
but a good drawing is
mhm.
always a good drawing. That's my point. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Right.
So, the question about style. You have a very unique style, the much colorful, the amazing style. So, how you did painting in this style, and how you just work with it, and how does it how does it
How you developed your
develop
own
your
unique
style? Yes,
style.
Mm.
forgot the word developed. Yes.
I'm not sure. You know, the it happened somewhere in you know, over the years of drawing and doing stuff. You know, it's not like you can consciously create something and then just do it to the end of your life. You know, I think it's a quest. You know, you have to find something for yourself, and if it works for you, if it's interesting for you as an artist, it will be interesting for the people because it's just a journey. that's 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 my approach to those things, you know.
And yeah, just
I don't,
what helped you the most then?
sorry.
What helped you the most to develop your own style? Because some people say just, just draw as you see it, as you want it. The others say
Okay.
that you just, look at the works of the artist you're inspired by. So if you would, you name a free artist or free, I don't know, um, maybe
Yeah,
books,
sure.
maybe movies, anything that inspired and influenced you the most.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult stuff because I mean, as you grow up, you discover things, and like for most people, you know, movies, books, comic books, games, and stuff like this, it all can give you the beginning or the start of your thinking process about what you want to do and what kind of story you want to tell or what kind of stuff you want to draw. But the other thing is that you also have to care about your skills, right? And when you draw, you just learn things that you cannot learn any other way. I mean, you cannot think, oh, I will draw like this, and then you will start. You just have to, you have to do the dirty job, I guess. You have to learn. And in my case, you know, I was drawing a lot, and there was a point in my life when I actually found out that I used to be a better drawer when I was a kid because I had no things attached to me. You know, I was just drawing freely. And
Hmm.
after studying in academy, you know, and doing weird stuff, you know, like painting and things like that, I moved to the Polish capital city, Warsaw, and I started to work as a storyboard artist for the commercial agencies. and it was like the worst possible job. I mean, it was well paid, but it was killing my soul, because I was drawing like stupid things for commercials, and like a commercial of cheese or whatever. And you just have to draw a lot of images very fast, and that was it. And it nearly killed me. So one day I just said, okay, that's enough. I don't want to do it because I will die. My soul will die, and I couldn't hold on. And I came back to the north of Poland, my original place, and started just drawing things that I want to really draw. And it was like rediscovering yourself, or as an artist. I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
I started to draw things that I want to draw, and I spent like 1 2 years just drawing things and constantly pushing myself to do better. And then I started to share my stuff online, and it was very slow at the beginning, but after I uploaded some sketches, I remember, and that was the beginning of changes for me, because suddenly people said, "Oh wow, that's amazing," and I thought, "Oh, someone likes it," and that was the it motivated me to go deeper and find things that I really like to do. And the funny thing is that it was really difficult at the beginning to do that, because my financial situation at that time wasn't so amazing. But I was just pushing it. It was more important than anything for me at that point. And I thought, if I will have to draw the storyboards or some other shit, for I will die, and you know it wouldn't be even worse. So I just did that. And the thing is, when you draw stuff that you like, you draw it better because it's a journey for you, and you want to do it better, just because you know that you can discover something interesting, and then people see your stuff, and they somehow know that there is a passion in it or something, and they start to just contact you, and they want actually you to do this kind of stuff for them, and they will pay you for that. So it's much wiser. But I guess I had to. I didn't know that before. I had to learn all those things.
Hmm. So, question in topic, sorry. Now the gaming industry is developing very fast. How do you think, for your opinion, how in our time to remain an artist and express yourself?
I think now is the best time for artists. Because when you look at, for example, where the art world has gone, like we used to have painters, and we used to have sculptors, and amazing artists. And now when you look at the art, it's almost all of it is like conceptual art, stuff that nobody understands. And all the people that love figurative art and love to paint stuff or love to sculpt, they just transferred to digital media, and it's amazing. You can still do this classic art, actually, but for the new medium. It's amazing. Yeah. And with the game, when the digital art started, I mean, it wasn't so long ago, right? I think we will see some crazy changes in future. I just wonder where it all can go.
Okay, so you actually told us that if you follow your passion, if you draw what you like, you will draw it, the best possible way you can, and you will find a job finally. So, but we have a lot of artists
Mhm.
who dreaming about getting to the gaming industry, breaking into the comic industry, but I don't think that all of them, uh, find a job for them. So it's, I wanted to say the Russian roulette, but I hope that it's
Yeah,
not. So,
yeah,
but it's actually a gamble, and even if even if you dream about it, not always you can get the publisher for yourself or a job for yourself. So, what would you say the key? I don't know. What would you suggest
yeah,
for people? Not about to follow your dream, because following your dream is a bit vague. It's not an advice. So,
yeah.
some.
The weird stuff is like I used to be, like I told you before, a kid really obsessed with comic books, and I really wanted to do that, but I finally was able to do that at the moment where I didn't actually want to do that anymore. I stopped dreaming about it. That was my case. I thought, oh yeah, maybe I cannot draw comics. Maybe it's fine. I don't have to draw comics. I can do other stuff. I started to do a lot of illustration and stuff, and then I was contacted by a comic publisher, and it was like, I started to laugh because it was strange thing for me. In the moment where you almost gave up, or you just didn't desire this thing so much, it comes to you. But during those years when I wanted to do that, many people gave me advices, and you have to do that, you have to do this, and you have to do that. I mean, I don't feel like I can give advice to anyone. Like, the most honest thing I can tell you is just to really discover what is interesting for you as an artist, and nothing else matters, because that's the most important thing. If you try to do stuff that is required for the industry, or for like games or comics, whatever, it's all the same. If you shape yourself to be a fit into something, it's I don't think it's a good idea. I think the best idea is to find yourself, and then you can then people will know what you do, and they place for you. Like, they will need you, or they will say, oh, that's cool, let's ask this guy and work with him. It's like, don't try to create stuff to fit somewhere, just create stuff. What I mean? Hello.
Yes, we're here.
Yes, we know it's tough.
Yeah, it's complicated. I would like to give you advice, but in my opinion, giving advice, it's the only advice that you can, like, okay, I will give you an example. I was
Mhm.
studying like 6 years, or maybe 7 years I spent on studying in different art schools in Poland, and I had many teachers. In one school in Warsaw, it was the Academy of Fine Arts in Warsaw. I was kicked out of the school because I was painting, with a passion. It was a huge canvas, like an oil canvas, and I had an old professor there, and he came and he saw that the floor of the space of the workplace is really dirty because of my painting. And he told me, "Oh, I really think that you're a good painter, and I like your work, but I cannot give you a better grade because you just destroyed this room." And I said, well, I don't fucking care. And I left this school. But it's like, if you want to teach somebody, how can you focus on stuff like this? You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
never know when the teacher can give you a good advice. Like, the best art advices was given by my father, who is a painter, but he's also a person that doesn't speak too much. It's like very specific guy that likes silence, and he just paints at his studio. And when I was a kid, I was drawing all the time, and small things like my father told me, okay, just don't change the paper all the time. Draw on one sheet of paper as long as you can draw all of it. And I remember those small things, and you can never predict what kind of advice will hit you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So having a good teacher is it's for sure a very important thing, but it's also a question of ego, question of uh, understanding each other and stuff like this.
So, actually, we had a lot of question about traditional versus digital in the chat, and
Yep.
if we start talking about the academy, do you still drawing, with oil paintings or I don't know watercolors,
Yeah, sure. I
pencils?
paint.
What do
I
you think
paint
about?
all the time. I paint all the time, but it's like when I'm really tired, or if I'm tired with my work and I have too much noise in my head, I have to clear my mind. So I just start to paint, and it always it's like my personal way to meditate, I guess you may call it. Just you can make a lot of mess with paint and just feel refreshed, I guess. It's not so easy to do with Photoshop. Creating the mess, that's the only thing that when I start to work in Photoshop, it's like I would like to create as much noise and mess as possible, and sometimes it's difficult to do in Photoshop. But of course, it's amazing, amazing tool.
So, would you suggest the digital artist to try or draw in traditional, or it just depends on the person and it's not?
Yeah, sure. It's again, it's the same kind of stuff. I don't see the difference like CG or normal or classical, whatever you want to call it. If you are a person that is drawing, you probably are drawing on paper and in Photoshop. It's only a tool. I don't see the difference. Maybe for people who do some more technical stuff, or like photo bashing or whatever. But if you, I am an illustrator. It's more like I'm closer to painter or illustrator than I am to like a technical computer guy. So for me, Photoshop is just another tool, and I don't see much difference in it, to be honest. Than like you can draw with pencil, you can draw in Photoshop, and you can paint, and everything is equally important. And then there is next step, and you can mix all that, which I really like to do.
Yay! Finally,
Okay.
someone said it.
Yes. The many beginner artists asks about how do they promote themselves. Many of them can't find their first job and stuff like this, so how can they promote themselves?
Well, I'm not very active in social media kind of person. So I really didn't do much work in promoting myself. What I did, I just put some works online, and somehow it clicked in my case. Is somehow I get some few first jobs, and the next jobs were just followed by the previous ones. And that's how it worked for me. So I guess what to promote yourself, you have to make progress with charity. It's a mighty tool. Like when I was a younger, we didn't have this kind of tool, and pretty amazing the possibilities right now. You can work all over the world, and like the things, the place that you were born, it's not so important anymore. It's crazy.
Communicating. And actually, they have a lot of question about Ivan Bilibin and your style.
Of course.
Uh, is it coincidence, or do you like this artist, or like the story
Oh,
behind? It's like Tim.
he's my friend, you know.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
he's my soulmate, you know. He was just born in the other time, but I always felt very, very close, you know. Like
Hmm.
it's one of those drawers, you know. It's something you can feel, you know, when you go stuff. You watch some art, and suddenly you see a image of an artist from the past, and you know that this guy is so amazing, and you feel just that you have something in common with this artist, you know, and that's the case with me and Ivan, I guess, you know. I mean, I really like this guy. Always liked his illustrations, you know. And when I was in Petersburg this year, I've asked Azat, I guess that was the guy from the festival, to buy some books of Ivan. And I got some books, and also I did later when I came back, I did the drawing of Baba Yaga, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
I started this one in Petersburg in a hotel, you know, after the visit in the Russian museum. So it's all like all the stuff I do is has a reason to it, you know. I was just inspired, and I started to draw on iPad when I was there in Petersburg, and when I came back home, I finished this illustration, you know. It's like a homage to this artist, I guess.
Yeah, just for those who don't know who Ivan Bilibin is, it's a Russian artist who born around 1977 or something like that and died in 1942.
Yes,
It's
and he
just
had a very sad fate, actually.
yes, everybody in Russia has
No,
very
no, no.
sad
He
fate.
died in
Come on,
Petersburg,
guys.
and
Yes,
he's
we know.
burned in
All
a common grave. Come on, it's very sad
yes.
fate.
Well,
Uh, yeah. So it's just some sort of a
yeah,
note for those who doesn't know, and if you'd like, you can Google it. We won't spend a lot of time on this here, but still.
it's amazing stuff. Is that his art is like it's not growing older, right? I mean, it's still as fresh as it was.
Yes,
It's
yes.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's always the case with the good stuff, you know.
Uh,
Only few examples are like this.
you know, in Russia, all fairy tales, publishing with his
With
illustrations.
his illustration,
Yes.
Oh
so
yeah, yeah,
a lot
sure.
of yeah, I think everyone knows his art, just don't know that who was the artist actually. But let's not talk about the sad stuff, maybe. I don't know. Actually, can you tell a few words about what are you doing right now in the Photoshop? Because I see that
I'm
you
just painting
made it.
some trees.
Yes, actually, you're
It's
drawing like with the old paintings, like in traditional. That's it's
I'm
kind
kind
of
of I'm
interesting.
kind of obsessed with this subject matter. You know, I love to draw trees. I don't know. I live now in really close to the forest, and that's kind of my thing. You know, because I don't know. There is something with nature that it's almost abstract. You know, the shapes and the stuff. You can just let it go, and it's not so easy when you create the technical stuff, you know, like cars, you know, vehicles, guns, and stuff like made by humans or imaginary stuff that could exist in future or different in different you know world. But nature has this power, and I really enjoy just drawing this kind of stuff. You can really easily create compositions and solve problems with nature. And also you can use many colors. It's also a reason for me.
It's really. I just like the. I don't know, the flow of the trees. What's the right word? The composition for them. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know, I will probably destroy it in one moment because, for me, the process when I start to draw, I really never know where I will end up, so it's usually my warm up, some kind of doodles, and then I realize where I'm going with this illustration somewhere in the middle. It's like I usually don't plan the work ahead. I don't like to know where I will end up. I like really enjoy this moment of surprise. You know.
Okay, so the very popular question we're asked all speakers in this question. So, tell us about the three mistakes of beginning artists and how to overcome it.
That's a tricky question because when I remember when I was a beginner, the young artist trying to do something, I wasn't really aware of what I was doing. It's difficult to tell young people what to do and how to avoid the wrong stuff. I think that the only way to do it is to learn on your mistakes, and that's actually the only thing you can do. And, I mean, playing it safe and avoiding mistakes, it's not a solution, because the things that give you the knowledge, the knowledge of the things that you don't want to do, or you know I think there is no other way to better than just fail sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds cliche, but it's actually very true.
How often do you experiment with your art? Because your color palettes is really something. They're so colorful, so bright, so intense. And is it just, I don't know, uh,
Yeah, that's my
how to put it in
main
word?
quest,
Mhm.
to use colors. And I mean, there is a problem with colors. I mean, some people have problem with colors. When they see a colorful piece, they think that it's art for kids, or it doesn't look mature enough, or whatever. I think it's like a stigma that you give to art that is colorful, and I want to break that. It's not my mission, but I'm just interested in trying to use color and be able to somehow tell a story, and possibly not for kids, but just with colors. I mean, the color is such a great way to carry information. It's just depending on what colors you will use, you will create the mood of the story, and there are just too many possibilities that are interesting in this search for me. I love colors, and I like to play with that concept. Just you add one color to your piece, and it changes everything, and then all the rest colors, remaining colors, to keep it working. And it's just like a laboratory. Experiment all the time, and you see what happens if you will connect this with this and that with this. It's experimenting all the time, I guess.
And I think that's one of the most exciting thing in being an
Yeah,
artist, experimenting,
yeah, I guess
trying
so.
new stuff.
I guess so. Yeah, that's the drive I was trying to describe before. It's like you have to find something that is interesting for you. For example, the colors. I know that this is the interesting point for me of the work. When I will start to find the color palette. It can be something else for everyone. It can be light and shadow for someone. It can be composition for other person.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter, but you have to find this something that will carry you. That be interesting for you as an artist and will allow you to spend more time behind the desk, I guess.
Okay, so maybe philosophical questions. So, what do you
Alright.
think will happen to artists in 50 years?
Well, they will be the same, like they always been. I mean, the world changes, the tools are changing, but people that want to draw are born every day. We used to be a cave painters, now we draw in Photoshop, and you know, in future we will use. We are only humans, what can change? Only the tool will change, and it will bring some interesting solutions, but people will always do what people do.
Okay.
That's my philosophical answer.
Yeah,
Or-
actually, I think that the question was inspired by all the, I don't know, IT solutions, how I say them in English. I forgot the word. So a lot of people say that no one needs books anymore.
Yeah,
The
sure.
paper books. That the traditional painting will be dead. But I think that they, predicting this the past
Yeah,
20 years or
and you
so.
still have some painters. So, I mean, some things are just really deep rooted in our culture. Like I don't think that we will lose traditional painters. And it's difficult now. Even now, with an age of digital art, you still have people that are only passionate about the traditional stuff. You never know.
Okay, can I ask some off-top question?
Sure, of course.
Because there's guys from Poland asks, will you be doing an exhibition of any courses in Silencia in the future?
In Silesia or in
Slasko,
Śląsk.
Slasko,
Oh, Śląsk, yeah.
Slasko.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I wasn't invited by anyone to Śląsk so far, but you know,
I was better, but I should have been.
no, I mean, like, I haven't done a lot of that, to be honest. I mean, I was only on a few festivals, and yeah, I did few talks, I did few presentations, but I mean, try to draw, not to talk, if you know what I mean.
No time for,
When I think about my favorite science fiction, ideas or stuff, I don't think usually about the cyberpunk, because we already are in the cyberpunk. Like everyone now has an cybernetic extension of himself, like a phone or whatever. So it's actually a cyberpunk world right now that was predicted really amazingly, by so many writers and artists and whatever. But when I think about this future, I like to go further, in the ideas. My favorite version of the future would be this far from here, there's I don't know, bio, engineering kind of stuff, more like Herbert's Dune. You know what I mean? Like things are less technical, but more um, bioengineered, and I would wish that there was more stuff like this, But obviously I'm just talking about the concept of the future, I'm not so amazed with those techno ideas because it's already here, it's I'm talking about the vision of the future, so for example, like I don't know, 20 years ago it was amazing to think about cyberpunk kind of world, with all this um, digital stuff, but we already are here. It is the future right now. So when I think about the visions of the future, I think about something more connected to the biological side of humans, and yeah, that would be interesting.
Would you use 3D software on? Do some photo bashing techniques on stuff like this?
No, I never did. I mean, I really think I should learn because it's one of the things that I would like to know how to do. But so far, no. And as far the photo brushing and using photos, that's not really my thing. Like I told you, I'm much closer to just being able to draw something. Is more to imagine it and create it from the scratch rather to use the photo. And I mean, I don't say it's bad, don't get me wrong. I just say it's not my way.
Yeah. And about your way, I'm pretty sure that you faced some troubles, some problems, some disappointments while experimenting, while, learning.
Of course, every day.
Yeah. So the people asking how to survive a failure, how do you, cope with all these problems? Some sort of advice for the beginners, maybe who are, in low spirits because they can't draw as good as they want to.
Yeah, I mean, like you won't create a masterpiece, like you cannot you cannot have this attitude that you want to create this amazing kind of stuff. You have to have an attitude like you will always fail, and then of course you will fail, like the process is something that looks terrible, from the beginning, and all those moments, and just somewhere in the middle of the work something will happen, and you will find you will find a moment that will be interesting for you, and it will carry you. I mean, it works like this for me, like I'm just doing something right now, and I don't know where I will go with. I don't really like what I see, it's because I don't understand what it is, but somewhere in the process I know find I will find something that will give me an idea what I'm doing here. It's always like that. I mean, I think you just have to keep on moving, It's the only thing you can do, really.
Actually, a lot of people asking at this moment after you answer this about the 3D, about a photo bashing and stuff like that. They're asking, do do you do everything by your own hands, or do you, find the textures in the internet? Do you use some sort of cheats, some sort of plugins, some sort of, hotkeys, or any hacks, any secret techniques that you use, or you just drawing
Oh,
with one
secret technique.
brush? Yes, secret techniques, the magic brushes that you use
Yeah.
probably, but I'm looking how you're drawing right now, and it looks, for me at least, that you just use a few. Was it one brush and just the colors? Is on the layers, layers,
Yeah,
layers,
I'm just
layers?
using one brush, and the most important brush. That's actually it for me at this point. As far from the textures, I sometimes stop at the middle of the digital process. I print the image and then I paint on it with a normal paint or ink, whatever, or I draw with a pencil, and I use all kind of stuff, and then I make. Sometimes I don't. It's not like a requirement. Like one day you can just start something on paper and then make a scan and finish it on in Photoshop, or it's always the process is always different. That's what I like about it. I don't have to feel bored with what I do, because that kills me. Where if someone would tell me that I have to do something every time the same, I don't know, start in Photoshop and just keep it like this, I would probably prefer not to do that. The freedom is very important for your health, artistic health. I mean, because if you will start to feel boredom, it will kill you on so many levels. It's a long process, and you cannot feel bored while you do that. You have to find a way to make it more interesting for you. And I try to remember that Photoshop, I mean, it's very powerful tool, but it's a tool in the end. So I just don't feel the uh, like a need to stay only in Photoshop for all. Feel like I want to do something else, I will paint or I will draw image.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was studying, there was something like, some people were like, oh, I will just paint oil classic painting, and that was it. Like this classic technique of oil paintings was something very secret, or you know what I mean? Like you cannot mix oils with anything else, or if you paint with acrylic paint, it means that you are a worse painter, whatever. Those are just tools, and people tend to give the like I don't know a meaning to the
Yeah.
tool, which is I think uh, not the wisest thing, because if you are a drawer, if you draw, then why not use other tools? I mean, I understand if you do like only CG stuff, you have to do stuff for movies and prepare the models and stuff like this. It's so much easier to do that in digital media, right? But when you're in Illustrator, like I always wanted to be, it's just one of the tools, right?
Yeah. And uh, another interesting question from the chat. The people asking about the tools and stuff. And do you have any, the moments in our career when you found something, some technique, some probably tool which level up your skills, and probably that, I don't know, uh, how to use the brush on, I don't know, on certain settings, and
Yeah, not
understand its
really, because
potential.
yeah, sure. Like I don't have so many. I mean, I just mostly use this one brush, and I have a lot more, but I would use like five or six of those. So the brushes are not the key, I guess. The key is just I remember when I found the way uh just to start use Photoshop freely, you know, and start to paint like I would on paper, you know. So most of the things I do in Photoshop are things that I have translated from my traditional technique of painting, you know. I used to paint, like I told you, from early years and since I was a kid, so I just knew how I can do the stuff on paper, and I started to do the same but in Photoshop, you know. And that was the moment for me. And you know, there are a few useful things in Photoshop, but those are like what tricks. I mean, I usually use the opacity of the layers and opacity of the brush, and you know, that's pretty much it. You know, I just don't like to think about the tricks, because if I don't like the moment if I'm not able um, to do what I want, and uh, it's the same for if I'm not able to do something in Photoshop. I try to learn how to do it, you know. But in my case, it's not a technical trick. It's just something I would like to know how to draw manually, you know.
Hmm.
So it's mostly studying stuff of other artists, I guess, like to see how someone did paint this tree, or how someone did paint, you know, something, you know. Yeah, that's it.
Wow. Yeah, just to those who just join us, the stream will be here for another hour, so you are still will be able to ask your questions. And sorry, but there's a lot of questions in Russian, so I just say it in Russian as well. Ребят, пожалуйста, задавайте свои вопросы на русском, желательно языке, потому что тогда мы проще поймем, понятнее, что вы имеете в виду, и переводить это на английский соответственно. А с английского на английского переводить не всегда удобно. Стрим у нас будет примерно еще 1 час, поэтому не стесняйтесь, задавайте вопросы и спрашивайте. And I will ask another question, and then I will let Alex to, to ask another one. There was a good question about, well, I believe it would be about your style as well. Do you think about physics, how nature really works, drawing works like this? And if not so, how do you abstract yourself from this? Because your works are really stylized, and people are interested uh,
Mm.
how you work with this style.
Yeah, as you may know, interested in reality, you know. I'm not trying to give the impression of the uh, forest or whatever in my works. I'm mostly I'm mostly trying to imagine the not existing worlds. You know? Something that is not existing has to have things that we know, because otherwise it will be you know, no one will believe in all that. But so I'm just trying to give an impression of something that we know, and create the not existing world out of that, you know. So it's, I would say it's more impressionist, it's more emotional understanding of nature than its physical understanding of, you know, light, shadow, and all those stuff that are around us, you know. It's just not, it's not really a case of my choice or thinking about if it's necessary or not. It's just, I guess it's just my unconscious choice. It's more about who I am and how I approach things as a human and as an artist. And you know, everyone is different, right? So for one person, it's not important. For other, it's important. And I think that's the case. That's my that's my quest. You know, my personal quest. For someone, it can be absolutely different. and I really respect that. I love artists that are doing something opposite of what I'm doing. It's always interesting, and yeah, but I I, I won't try to go there because you know one person can do this at an amazing level and something completely else. Does it make sense?
Yes.
All right.
No, it's really interesting how you think, and there are guys who are like, thank you for an answers, Jacob. Jacob, oh, I'm sorry, I
Yeah,
totally
yeah, it's
bothered.
okay. You can call me Jacob. It's not
Jakob.
Jacob, yes,
Jacob
I
or
know that's
Jacob or
Jacob. Yeah,
whatever.
sorry, no, I know it's just I really have a friend Jacob, so I was like, and when I actually told him like Jakub, he was like, who's that? So yeah, sorry. There are a lot of questions about the motivation, and people are asking how to, how you keep up, how to keep the motivation going, how to, be, cheerful and positive about your work, how not to surrender, how to fight, because I think that a lot of artists face the art block, if it's possible to
Yeah,
say so. It's sometimes it's really hard to keep drawing because especially newbie artists who just started, it's they used to think that art is simple, that art is easy.
only
But
yeah,
when you yeah, just entering the industry and you understand that you have to work and you have to draw, like since 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. maybe. It's really hard. So how to keep yourself motivated?
yeah. That's really something, because I never had a problem with motivation. Interesting for me. The issue, the art block always appears when you work for someone, because it's usually like when you have to do stuff for someone. I'm saying about clients and stuff you do freelance, and because it's usually you work from an hour to an hour, and that's the main problem. Like for example, in my case, because uh, I really don't like to. I mean, no one to work from this hour to that hour, because when we speak about art, you cannot really plan that. You have to feel good to be able to create something interesting. Sometimes you have to work and you don't feel at all this inspiration or whatever. So how I deal with that stuff is I just try to have few projects at the same time usually, and I can just switch, and it's working pretty well for me so far, and when I don't feel like I can work on any of those, then I just paint, and it solves my problems, because yeah, that's pretty much how I do it. But yeah, I understand absolutely this kind of feeling. It usually helps to stop doing what you do and start doing something else, because the energy will still be there, but you just sometimes you feel burnout, and if you change the subject, it may help you. Yep.
But I don't think it's always possible at work, or it depends
Yeah,
on
of
your art
course.
director or your
It's not easy.
supervisors.
I mean, it's not easy. I mean, sure. Sometimes you just have to shut your mouth and do your job. It is like this. Sometimes you have to do it, but if you have those few things that can keep you alive artistically, it's always very healthy. And sometimes you just have to not say anything and just try to do your job. But I never worked in any company. I mean, I worked only for Witcher. But I was not hired by the as a worker in the company. I was going there because I wanted to see how it works, and I was working on the place, drawing the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I always had my hours, so that if you're a master of your time, it's also very helpful for you. I mean, for me, I guess.
Okay.
So,
I'm trying to give you some answers, but I always worked at home at my place on my conditions, and that's the way I like it, and it works for me. I have time to do other stuff, and I need that time to be better with the client work.
mhm.
Okay. So the question from chat: how do you finish your work, finalize, and how does you decide that the work is finished? Many beginner artists can finalize a drawing as forever. How do you understand that the work is finished?
Oh yeah, that's my problem too because I really like the small things. I usually like this piece that I draw right now. It's something like a rough for me because usually I will go to this zoom and I will clean all those small things. I really care about the details. So I can spend. I usually spend like a few weeks, but it's not like everyday work. Sometimes when you feel that you have enough with the drawing, you can just put it aside. I do it all the time. I have a folder with the drawings that I don't feel like doing right now or at this moment, and they just wait for their time in the folder, and some of them can wait for a year or longer because that's only my personal work. So I have no deadline above me. I have no company telling me what to do, and I have this comfort of doing what I want, when I want, with my personal stuff, obviously. And it's also very important when you have a distance work, when it can just be in the folder for some time, and then you come back to it again with a new energy, and you can destroy it.
Well, actually, what you're talking about, it makes sense. But I understand that a
Thank you.
lot of artists. No, no, no. Yes. You're welcome. No, no, actually, what I wanted to say here is that when people usually trying to find the work from themselves,
Mm,
they are ready to work for free, to work for food, to
yeah,
do anything but to enter the industry, but to be hired.
yeah.
So what you say here is that you actually made the company who is quite famous, and I think that it's one of the biggest company in Poland at least, uh,
Mm,
who can you can work for the industry, for the game dev, and as an artist, maybe in general, I'm not sure, please correct me if I'm wrong. But
yeah.
uh, what would you suggest in that case? Because would you say that guys just don't agree on the work if you are not happy with it, or how would you you
No,
know
no, no. Yeah. Please don't get me wrong. I, I don't want to start a rebellion, but anyway, it's like you have to respect people and you have to be good for people and all those things, right? It's understood. I mean, that's the rule, and you just have to do that. But you also have to respect yourself, and you have to respect. I guess you have to know your value, but it sounds really bad, but you know what I mean. Like you have to at least know who you are, I guess. That's also very difficult to achieve when you do art all the time. I mean, artistically, to know what you like to do and subjects, stuff like. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is, if you feel that the job is not something that you would love to do,
Mhm.
just the job that you feel, oh, it would be great if do this job because of any reason, I think it's better not to take this kind of job and just create something to your folder for free, for only for your passion or whatever. I mean, there is more. Sometimes there is more sense or meaning to do something like that. But of course, not always, right? I mean, when you work for a client, you have to be responsible and you have to learn all those things. You have to deliver the work. You cannot say, "Oh, I just have an art block and couldn't deliver this." That's obviously it cannot happen when you work with people. So I guess important is the awareness. Your self artistic awareness, I guess. How long can you draw? Knowing all those things will allow you to deliver stuff for people you work with.
Yeah, it's just I'm listening to you, and it looks like you were really lucky that your first work, your first job was actually for CD Projekt Red, CD Projekt.
Yeah, I
That
had a lot of luck, but this particular job, it didn't really change anything in my. I mean, it's a big company. It's a great it's a great team of people. That's obvious, but it was it didn't change as much for me personally. Like the blog and sharing my stuff online changed a lot more for me. Because I was able to create stuff for people anywhere. And at that time, when I was working for The Witcher, I was doing stuff for in Poland, and it was great because I was working with an amazing company. But the job was over, and I was still in the same place. So that's it.
okay. Alex had a question.
Yes, one more popular question. So, what's inspires you the most? Are there any favorite books, movies, or maybe video games?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, mm, so where do we start? With books, right? Like I told you before, I'm on my headphones because I work, and I mean, in fact, like most recently, I cannot do it. I was listening to audiobooks for past few years, and too much imagined stories. It can also destroy your head. But anyway, I was doing this a lot because it helps to focus on the work. You can just listen to something and draw. I always had a problem in school when I was a kid, and the teachers were like, "Oh, Jakub, stop drawing. Just listen to your teacher." And I was trying to tell them, when I draw, I can focus on what the teacher is saying, and when I was stopping, I was not able to listen to the teacher. They never understood this mechanism, but it's still the same for me now. So when I listen while I'm drawing, I can have this better focus, and you just put the good book on, and you wake up a few hours later, and your work is finished. It's an amazing way to do it. Listen mostly science fiction, fantasy kind of stuff, and Herbert, Frank Herbert, Dune. That's my favorite stuff. Most of the favorite. Um, what else? Movies. I like weird stuff. Like everything I like. It's some kind of it has some kind of a twist, or it's like the movies or like Videodrome or Existence, stuff like this. And yeah, music, games, all of this stuff is important, but it can also distract you, because when you're trying to develop your own idea and then see a movie, it's a powerful thing, and it can bring your thoughts to the different path, if you know what I mean. It's like it can change your idea that you were developing at the time. So I'm trying also to be careful with that.
Okay, great. And one more question, please. So our subscriber just cries, please ask. So I need to ask this. How can an artist practice the color harmony? What's exercises to do?
Oh, I would like to know the answer to the question, but that's really hard. With colors, it's like you just have to do it and see if it works. And if you see if it's working or not, if you can judge, that's the lesson, in fact. What I do when I choose colors, I always try to small changes, like doing small steps, not changing the color too much. And for example, we have a lot of oranges and blues on this painting, and if I would like to put a green in it, I would have to choose the particular green. So I have a lot of yellow, so I would put the green that is more connected to yellow than it's more and less than to blue. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to control this spectrum, because otherwise, if the colors will have too much contrast, it will look. Uh, and it's also a very interesting subject for me as well. There are for example, yellow. I'm kind of afraid of this color, because some colors like to be a dominant colors. So, for example, if you use yellow, you will have to use a lot of yellow in order to make it look good. And the same is with green. Uh, in my opinion, the color that is the easy work with is actually violet, because somehow you can see the violet in every gray, in shadow, and everywhere. So it's like the color that is almost everywhere all the time. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if it makes sense, but colors, that's a different kind of subject, right? I mean, it's like the math, It's like it's like a science somehow. It makes me it's a science of emotional science or something in between. Anyway, it's interesting for me.
Just thank you for these words. I hope that at least half of the watchers or the subscribers didn't unsubscribe and stop watching your, the stream afterwards. Art is
Yeah,
like a math, because as far as I know, a lot of artists they are not friendly with math at all. So guys, art is not as easy as you thought it is.
yeah, and also if women are much better with colors always, right? Like,
I
it's
don't
yeah, it's something, I don't know, it's something genetic or something. But
know.
if you even see the old ladies street, they always have the great swatches, on them, like the clothes, the hats. The colors always fit. So that's amazing.
I never thought about that actually.
Yeah, it always fits.
You said about this a bit sad, I was like, hmm.
Sad?
Yeah, it's like
I'm not
they
sad.
always matching this.
No, no, no. I mean, it's just Yeah.
I actually like it how this bluish something, is it a river or lake or I don't know,
Yeah, it's probably a swamp.
water? Yeah, the swamp is so harmonic with these orange colors and yellowish colors.
Yeah,
Actually, I can suggest the Johannes Eaton uh, book about the colors, color theory or something, I believe. So, guys, if you'd like
I don't
to,
like this kind of stuff, you know, the books. I mean, I don't think that you can find a science, especially with colors. I mean, I compared colors to math. It's more like it's more like of a science of the emotions than it's
Mhm.
a science of the, you know, that you can measure and just use as a method because you never know. Like for example, I hate connection of green and red, right?
Mhm.
I can't stand those two colors together. And whenever I have to do something with green and red together on one piece, I always feel this physical pain. You know, like uh, I just cannot do it of some reason. But I know it's only my personal fixation, right?
Yeah.
And for someone else it can be something else. So there is no answer, there is no correct method, you know, because it's always about your preferences, you know, personal preference. And you can do something with colors that someone else will hate and it still will look good. So, you know, I just think that uh, there is no method to art, and the only rule is actually to find yourself, because if you start to make science of art, uh, it, it won't be art anymore, you know.
Yeah, I got it. I just was thinking that you probably would like to continue, but if you are finished your sentence, it's sorry, yeah, it sounded weird. I know. Sorry, guys. For English speakers, it might have sounded weird. But actually, if you are talking about, the science of emotion, do you use it in your works in terms of, the red is the color of passion or danger, and the
No,
green is the color of calm, or the blue is the color of calm? I'm
no,
not sure
not
about
really, but
this stuff.
it's something like when you see the colors. When I feel this something, I don't know what it is. I don't know the name of the emotion, but
Hmm.
there is this moment when you feel something. I don't know. The colors have this magical effect that they can give you some kind of the feeling, you know, like I
Hmm.
don't know, a mystery, whatever. And if the feeling is there, I know I know it's there, and it's time to finish, you know. But you have to. It's really difficult to describe, you know, because there are weird things about colors. Like for example, when I spent a lot of time behind, computer drawing, and then side, something happens to your eyes, and you see the same colors all around you. You know, because you spend so much time using those particular colors in your work, right?
Hmm.
And you start to discover those colors everywhere around you, and then you can also see the connections with other colors. I sound like a crazy guy.
That's
But
fine. I like it.
that's true, you know. I mean, talking about colors, you know, it's a weird path that everyone explore on its own, I guess.
That's okay.
Yeah, like,
Okay, one more philosophical question, if I can. Many beginner artists start to draw because of money or because of they want to quickly get into game dev industry. So, what do you think? Artists will now be valued as the middle ages on maybe valued the most than now?
Uh, so your question is like, is it? I'm not sure if I understand you well. So the question is about uh, if the idea of, like earning money in art is good, or
I think the question is how an artist be an artist in our age.
okay. So you mean
It's
if
about, is
everything
it
is all around money, you still want
something
to?
like that? Is it a
Uh,
craftsmanship, or is it, or
yeah. Okay. I think one part of it is being a successful person or whatever, successful artist. So earning money makes sense, right? Because it supports you as a human and also you as an artist. So definitely it makes sense. But the second thing is you also have to become a human, right? Become an artist. So you cannot. Those are very serious questions. I'm not sure answer this kind of questions, but it's always about having this
well,
respect for yourself, I guess I would say. I mean, there are things that I would, you know, that are dangerous to do. Like for example, my first work when I finished studying in art school, I went to Warsaw and I was doing this uh, storyboards for commercial agencies, and that was a well-paid job. However, it was destroying me, like I felt I felt horror, I hated that job. I really didn't want to do it, and the only reason why I was this was money. So it was really it's a really bad choice if only money is the reason to do something. I think you have to find uh, a way to like what you do, or just do what you like. That's the only solution.
it's not about the money.
It's never about the money. I mean, if you are a kid and then you become older and you start to think about life, you start to think about ways to earn money, and you start to do things. Some of those things are just because of earning the money. But the best way is to do what you like and earn money because of doing that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my personal goal, and I think it's the healthy way of living, because money, I mean, what can you do with money? Buy stuff that you don't need actually, and that's all.
Yeah, I just remembered the quote from Ursula Le Guin, one of my favorite writers.
Oh yeah.
And she wrote, and she said, I believe that it was she who said that creative adult is the child who has survived.
All
So
right. That's cool.
yeah, I just think that it's really hard to keep all the passions that you had in your childhood, to keep them and to probably develop them
Yeah.
as you growing older and older. Becomes
Oh
harder and
yes.
harder because you have to
Well,
decide
I think it's
between
very
your passion
important to
and
keep
yeah.
some of it. Yep, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, guys, do we have any more questions from the chat here? Anyone? Yeah, we
Yes, we
just
have
started to
one more
discuss
question.
about the
Yep.
money there. Yeah.
No. In chat now, really, one philosophical question. Next, 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 next. Stop it! Come on.
No, it's yeah, it just
Yeah, we just went into this direction because of the color talk, I guess.
that's fine. That's how the streams go usually.
Yes. What will contemporary, what would modern artists leave behind them, and what the next generation say about our paintings in 100 years, maybe?
Oh, it probably won't survive, I guess, unless you print it.
Oh,
That's the problem, right? Yeah, I'm not really sure, you know. It's crazy. For now, the only thing that artists own, it's like many of them, they share the knowledge or share the process. They can sell it online or what. And that's actually the thing that is most physical, you know, because it's the part of the process behind that nobody sees. But we don't have the what do you say, a copy or the physical copy of anything. But that's one of the reasons everything, and I still have some original stuff, some original parts of the digital. I have some sketches of some parts, you know, things like that, you know. So I think it's important to mix everything, and maybe we can. I mean, nobody knows what will happen. Hard to say. You know, when comics drawers were doing the comic books a long time ago, they didn't think that the pages will be worth anything in future, right?
Yeah, maybe.
And now you can really, if you can, I mean, one frame of Tintin was sold for like €1,000,000 or something. Crazy expensive right now. So, and at the time, when those things, nobody thought that the pages will be valuable because it was only part of the process, you know. So you never know where the world will go and how the things will develop. Maybe people in future will analyze the process and stuff like this.
There
okay,
will
thank you.
there will be the critics of the comic art or something like that in the future. Or maybe it will just we'll find them in some sort of, ancient tombs. And people are like, wow, there was, such a art called comic art and people used to think it's cool or something like that. I would actually be happy to look what would future be like.
Oh yeah.
There's a question about the Polish national traditions. Do they
All right.
affect art?
I thought about vodka. Okay.
Oh God, please no.
Does it affect your work somehow? Please
Sorry.
tell us. Sorry, it was a stupid joke about if vodka affects your art or not. But yeah, it just was the question about the Polish. Do Polish national traditions affect your art or not?
Probably, I guess. I mean, my father is a painter in art books when I was a kid growing up, and he used to take me to the exhibitions and stuff like this when I was a kid. So all those paintings are important for me and somehow are part of my, you know, artistic
Background.
bank of wisdom or whatever you call it, you know, like it's there in my DNA, you know. So it's important. And there is a lot of art that is amazing, and, you know, maybe not known, and the same in Russia and whatever. I mean, there's so many artists, you know, and only a few of those artists became names worldwide known, and you never know why actually. There's so many artists even in Poland that were never discovered, you know, for the world to see them, and it's weird stuff.
So you actually had a creative atmosphere at home, I suppose, and it's
Oh
really
yes.
great that. Yeah, because you said that academy, you went to academy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you said about your parents were artists. So
Yeah, I said my father was, he
oh,
was the
sorry.
one that gave me advices, but it's like, when I think about this now, it was like the most important thing. The passion of my father, and the fact that he's a painter and things that he, you know his his way of thinking about the pictures and stuff like this, that's pretty much created me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's actually really great when you have someone who supports you in your creative career at home. Not everyone lucky. Again, it's not everyone lucky as you.
Yeah, there was never a question, because I always felt that's my thing, and nobody questioning this. So uh, I was never wondering. I always wanted to draw, and that's pretty much the end of the story.
Man.
Okay, what advice would you get yourself maybe 10 years ago?
Oh my God, that's a tricky question. Right? Do we talk now about the changing uh, your reality while past traveling, or I mean, I don't really regret anything done for past few years, and I'm not sure if I would be able to do something in a better way or to avoid something. It's like I said before, I think that we need the mistakes. We need the mistakes to learn from them. So I wouldn't change a thing. And
Yes,
I
thank
wouldn't
you.
give myself any advice. If I would if I would see myself in the past, I would just walk across the other side of the road and pretend I don't know this.
Wow. Nothing like, just pat yourself and like, good job, keep this up or something like that.
Yeah, no, not really.
That's cool. No, it's the self
No,
confidence,
I
man.
guess that's the most important, to fail. It's like it's in fact it's the only way to learn. If you think about that. Yep.
Okay, next question. The silence then. Then ask, what would you think will be with the game industry in the future? Will we been living in Matrix and stuff like this?
Yeah, the problem with industries, it's all connected. Money, so they will produce as much stuff as possible to sell it, and it will reach the point of break, and then something new will happen. But the problem with this is like we need strong people like visionary people, destroy uh, the things that exist, in every form of art or entertainment, like the directors, and because the majority is always like a gray, it's always like this worm that can work because it follows the rules, and it just goes forward, never looking back. But then you have people like, crazy artists or directors that don't follow the rules, and they do something that is expressive and different, and it breaks the order, and it creates new open doors. And it's actually the moment where making like the things are able to do a step forward because of people like that. You know what I mean? It's important to have a vision and, I guess, not be a follower, but just not be afraid to become a leader, something like this. Yeah, because the industry is only an industry. It's only a moloch, a monster, and this monster just needs money. and and in order is, like the first games that were not done by the industry. Those were geeks that were doing those games. They were sitting at home and they thought it's amazing to create this shooter. And that was the reason to do it, not the money and the industry. The industry will only create a pulp that will, that they will be able to sell it. But the important thing is to create stuff out of passion and not out of, like just, oh, I will get money because of. That's not the reason for doing anything. It's a waste of time, in my opinion. Yeah.
And for you, Jakub, could you please tell a free, you know, share some advice with the newbies, with the beginning artists maybe, or just with your colleagues? What would you suggest? What would be your advice for those who's watching this stream today?
Uh, you know, there's only one advice for me, and it was always this one advice for me. So that's the only thing I can tell you. If you decide to do art, decide to become someone, drawer or what, it's important to. It's important not to follow. It's important to respect everyone around you, but it's important not to follow. It's important to at least try to open some door.
Mm-hmm.
That's all. I mean, it's not advice really. It's something that I admire at other artists. When I see an art and I see that someone was able to open the door to the place that was, like for example, someone draws something that was never drawn before, or the way it's drawn is so amazing that it was never done before, or at least try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, art should be an adventure, right? And
Yes.
it's great that we have the industry here, and we can, as an artist, work for people, and that somebody needs the art, but still we have to remember that we are the artists, and that's a kind of the responsibility. You cannot forget about that. That's all, I guess.
That's really cool. And actually, we have two interesting questions that I would like
Okay.
to ask you. The first one, do you have a feeling that you're some sort of hostage to your own style? Would you like to
Oh
try
yeah, sure.
something new to go beyond, this style
Oh,
of
yeah,
yours?
sure. If you have a style, it's very easy to be a hostage, but and it's also you can feel very comfortable at this position, well, because the moment you know what's the next step, it gives you the feeling of the comfort. But it's also a very bad thing, and then you have to change something, and just go the other way. I try to do that as much as I can. Also, I think the important thing is to find the middle ground, the style between, because the style is something that will be iconic for the people, that they will the work of this person, you know. So it's important to have the visible style, I guess, but it's also important to play with the style and to not forget about artistic evolution, you know, discovering ways to do things. Yeah, it's very important. Yeah, I would like to remember.
Okay. So the second question I like is that what would you like to portray um, to tell with your works? What would you like the
Mhm.
viewer to understand, to see, to feel when they are looking at your works? What topics do you care about? What would you like
All
to?
right. Yeah, it's like I said. It's, my stuff is mostly about the places that doesn't exist. About the many of my drawings are inspired by the dreams I had. It's mostly imaginary stuff, you know, not existing reality that is not out there, but maybe, you know, like to create the stuff that doesn't exist, but is the, you know, just storytelling. That's basically it. I'm trying to tell stories of the places that don't exist. That's it.
That's great. Okay, I think that was the last question for today because we already asked the funny question we had. So thank you
Yeah,
very much.
I think I didn't understand the funny question because it was in Russian. Anyway.
Oh, come on. So what's about the Jennifer or Marigold? Who you asked? Oh my god, I
Trees.
forgot. The
Trees
trees,
marigold.
yes, dress. So thank you so much for the day. And you actually draw the like the image from the beginning to almost the end, I believe, in two
No,
hours.
it's not the end. As a matter of fact, at this point, usually I do something like this and I just go in a different place. You know,
Oh, I
that's
see.
that's very important. You know, I mean, yeah, we could go like endlessly on that, but
I see.
I like to
Well,
destroy my stuff. I mean, destroy with no plan, but you can always find new places when you just do something responsible. Yeah.
that's great. Anyway, thank you for agreeing to come today
Thank you so
here.
much, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
And yeah, just thanks for everyone who watched us today, for our subscribers, and for those who asked interesting questions in the chat as well. Um, I would say that you will find all these on the YouTube channel, cgspeak. So subscribe. You're welcome. And yeah, thanks, guys. Today again, Alex, Alisa, and the great Jakub Rebelka
Thank you so
was
much.
here for you today. Thank you. Bye. See you later.